housework, or scrambling to find a babysitter for a night out? Do you wish your quiet home was filled with the deafening chimes of 100 custom-made cuckoo clocks? Then the North AM NTR series robot is what you've been looking for. It'll make every conversation a who's on first bit. It will unblinkingly stare at you from the other room. You'll find it listening to music silently in the basement like it has a soul. And if you buy the deluxe edition, we'll make it look vaguely like your favorite deceased comedy actor. It won't make you sad at all. Welcome to Yesterday's Tomorrow Today and the Past Future World of Chris Columbus's Bicentennial.
Welcome to Yesterday's Tomorrow Today, a podcast about movies whose futures have passed us by. I am one of your hosts, Kyle McVeigh.
And I'm Joey Reinish.
And today, we're joined by a friend, a funny person, a writer, a producer, a Trekkie. Listen, he wears many hats. He contains multitudes.
Some from this timeline.
It is our friend, Aaron Waltke. Hello, Aaron.
Howdy and ahoy hoy.
That's a future thing, I think.
That is it? I don't know.
Yeah, it comes into vogue in the year 2130.
Oh, good.
Okay, good.
Thank God. Yes, and today we are discussing the 1999 Robin Williams film Bicentennial Man. A totally normal movie that everyone loves. I think it's pretty chill.
I saw this a long time ago, and I think I saw it at a point when I didn't realize how fucking weird this movie is.
You didn't clock that?
No, not back then, because Robin Williams was almost a Jim Carrey-esque. Like, you just watched his next thing.
Yeah.
You're like, what's the next one? And then I watched him, like, oh, there's some like robots and stuff in there, but like I wasn't at the point where I'm like, he's trying to fuck his friend's granddaughter.
Yeah,
like it gets weird in a way that I think the movie is like, this is sweet. But then you're like, is it though?
It does definitely. It is trying to pass off some truly distressing plot points as, isn't this a fun little rom-com all of a sudden? You're like, it absolutely is not. I don't like the idea. There's a moment where Oliver Platt just pitches to Robin Williams that he could have a cock. And it's like so weird.
Yeah, I will say that a lot of moments in the movie are kind of papered over with that really saccharine sweet, like James Horner. There was a sequence where he's just finding all of his dead colleagues, and and it's like do 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 do.
Yeah, when it's when it becomes Forrest Gump for like a half hour.
Yeah.
I will say the first time I saw this film was probably on VHS.
Sure.
There was a stretch, especially in the mid to late 90s, where all I would do is just go to the local Blockbuster, pick out the next sci-fi or fantasy looking thing, and watch. That would be like my evening. Yeah. And there was, like, believe it or not, I've seen I've seen most of Robin Williams' movies, and he's had another one like this that a lot of people forget. This came out in the 80s. It was called Being Human. That it was also like 5 different timelines.
What?
And he just plays a soul that gets reincarnated, like from caveman times, Renaissance, all the way up to today. And he was
That's Blackadder.
And very clearly, he was like, more of that, please.
Well, he's also did that What Dreams May Come, which was kind of like the same thing. Like, he's drawn to that idea of life throughout multiple.
But this is like on the cusp of, I feel like, because I believe Chris Columbus, the director of this, also did Mrs. Doubtfire. So they obviously have this connection. But like, I think this is right on the cusp of him like really trying to lean into dramatic stuff. And that's kind of tonally what's weird about this movie is it's kind of clearly thinks that it's sort of like a prestige-y epic, like, but also it's
also
distressing.
You fart after your first robot human intercourse sesh.
That's he has maybe the best 12 hours of anyone ever.
But you're right though, and I think that that was actually a huge source of contention in the production.
Yeah.
It was, I think at that time Williams was still mostly known as like, oh yeah, it's Mork.
Yeah.
And
do a weird voice.
and the director Chris Columbus was also like, I want to do a prestige serious sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, the Home Alone guy? Which I have more to say about that later. But it was apparently even down to the marketing of the film. There was a huge falling out with Robin Williams because very clearly Disney kept trying to push it into like, can you make it more Aladdin-y? And like where you're like just doing some riffs and
can you do more songs?
Yeah.
Wow. Come on. That's amazing. Let me run down some facts really quick so everyone understands. This came out in 1999 and it is set in the distant future of 2005 and then maybe sometime 2020 to 2023, then 2048, then 2068, and then 2020 or 2205, which is
covers some time.
Really covers,
almost like Bicentennial.
Yeah. Wow.
It really brings it full circle.
I didn't even clock that.
And the original story
So
was
smart.
in fact written as part of a canceled anthology by Asimov to celebrate the American Bicentennial.
I understand why. I understand why. Yeah, this is directed by Chris Columbus, like we said, who directed Home Alone 1 and 2, the first two Harry Potters, Mrs. Doubtfire. It is written by Nicholas Kazan, who wrote Matilda and the J-Lo movie Enough.
Love Matilda.
Which is, Matilda's so fun. It is based on the novel The Positronic Man by Isaac Asimov and Robert Silverberg, which is based in turn on the Isaac Asimov short story Bicentennial Man. And then there's an insane cast. Like, everyone is in this movie.
Even if they're in it for 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, it's like Bradley Whitford is in here for like maybe 3 minutes total, just playing asshole Lloyd.
Yeah.
Fucking hate Lloyd.
Which is his first name.
And right in just as we're transitioning to the third act, there's just like a quick cameo from January 6th Insurrectionist Joe Johnson.
Who is it?
I have them in my notes. Jimmy Pesto. You know.
Oh.
Famous January 6th.
I didn't even realize it was him.
Insurrectionist Jimmy Pesto. I
don't think he even has a line.
He doesn't say a thing. Like, there's a plot point later on. She's like, I'm marrying Charles. And I was like, I don't know who that is.
And then they just have a scene where Robin Williams just riffing, making fun of his appearance for about 5 minutes straight. You could sink the Titanic with that chin.
And she's like, he is a piece of shit.
Yeah,
I hate him.
He is gross to look at.
Oh, that guy that I'm marrying, but we don't live together. Seems weird. For those of you that have not seen it, I don't know why you're listening to this episode. You absolutely should watch this very weird movie. But quick little plot synopsis. In 2005, the Martin family buys a robot named Andrew and immediately realizes he's a creep. Andrew has a creative drive, a lust for learning, and a thirst for freedom. This leads him on a 200-year journey where the movie becomes Forrest Gump for a stretch, and then briefly My Best Friend's Wedding. In the end, Andrew gets what he always wanted, to be legally recognized as a human man and fuck his best friend's granddaughter.
I thought you were going to say gets what he always wanted, to finally die.
He gets what we all want.
Yeah.
Finally,
it's over.
Finally, my curse is done. He literally does. That is the journey of the movie. Is he's like, I can't just live forever. This is insane. Put human blood in me.
That also was very distressing to me. I was like, is blood what makes us die?
I
need to get rid of blood.
That has haunted me for the last 24 years.
That's why you've been systematically replacing all your blood.
We just had different liquid.
Yeah, is that what's like corroding our internals? Is we have blood?
I honestly don't know, but it was a distressing thing where they're like, what's the finishing blow on this going to be? Oh, they put human blood in him.
Yeah. And as he's doing it, he's like, you sure you want to do this, dude?
Old Oliver Platt.
Oliver Platt's like, okay. But I get it. Maybe you don't want to watch everyone you love die over and over again. Maybe
so
that sucks.
This is like an alternate vampire story. He's just like, everybody I love, I watch die.
Yeah.
But I'm a robot.
Yeah. I mean, there's vampire vibes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Where he bites people.
Yeah.
Yes, and.
Don't remember that at all.
He starts biting people.
I will say, I've rewatching the film, I expected it to not be anything like what I remembered, even though I've seen it many times over the years. I have to admit, it is my guilty pleasure movie.
Mm-hmm.
I still genuinely love it. And I love how weird it is.
This felt like an Aaron movie through and through.
I think it's
for sure.
It's part of like a genre of films where they're like, who cares who we alienate? Let's just make like a hard sci-fi and just do it.
I like you brought it up briefly in the recap rundown. Like they buy what I am assuming is a very expensive home device.
Yeah.
And everyone immediately hates it, it seems. Like nobody is stoked he's there within like 3 seconds of him opening his mouth.
Can we talk about that for a second? The opening sort of just premise table setting before the robot even shows up is a clockmaker owns what appears to be a mansion. 12 bedroom mansion.
Yes.
And never seems to work. Like clearly he's made his nut.
I mean, definitely once he has a robot, he does not work again. He's just managing the finances of the robot.
Right. So I guess my question is like in this version of 2005, are clocks like so rare they become like the new Bitcoin?
I don't know.
Nobody makes these anymore.
Well, I guess
these tokens are fungible.
That is the implication, right? Maybe it's like it's a lost form and everyone just has, it's positing this future where we've all just have digital, no one owns a real clock anymore. Or a real watch.
Because like once the robot starts making the clocks, I understand it. It's like those paintings that elephants make that everyone's like, I need one of those. I need it.
Yeah.
That's a robot clock.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But like, did he just make one really fancy clock for like an oil chic or something?
I don't know. Well, yeah, that does make it seem like he got in with some questionable people who had a lot of money.
Now I just buy robots for my family.
Yeah, he was like, I furnished all of their mansions with all the clocks that they wanted, and we're good.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, Bezos did just spend several $100 million building an atomic clock in a mountain. So maybe he was overseeing that, and then that was that.
That could be part of it.
Why did you have to spend that much money on an atomic clock?
I think that's the question.
It's called money laundering.
When you cool.
Got it.
Now that makes sense. So Sam Neill is just helping people launder money through his clock business.
Well, you know how you can tell Sam Neill is super loaded?
Wow, how?
Because his wind down is him and his wife drinking wine, playing chess at a standalone chess table.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, you're rich.
Yeah. There was not for a movie that was set in the near future, there were disturbingly few screens anywhere. Nobody was watching television. Yeah. Everybody was just quietly reading books by the fire and playing chess.
I kind of like that. I mean, that's nice. But overall, there's not like a ton of future distinct besides Andrew himself, this robot, which is, what is it? The Northam Robotics NDR series robot. When it shows up in a fucking coffin to their house with like action, but like as an action figure where like all his accessories are like around him.
The foam.
It's I guess so. The implication is that this family is like early adopters to this, right?
Yeah,
that was what I got.
Yeah, he's a rich. The dad's a rich technophile. And the parent, like the kids, are like, "Oh, Dad, another one."
We have a basement full of dead robots. Why do we need another one?
That would have been fun to see the other random shit that the dad had bought. And
it's like a prestige level basement
there's
full of discarded robots.
Yeah, a vacuum that had achieved sentience and then had already been shoved out the window by the parent of the kids.
I would love that. It's I guess that it seems like it's just a very boring robot situation where it's there as a housekeeper.
Doesn't understand like conversational nuances, like turns of phrases or anything to where you have to explain every time one of those comes up.
That was like, I guess it's not unique to the 90s, but all of my sort of reference points for that behavior of robots. Like specifically like Data. They did that a lot with on Next Generation of Data. It's like, I cannot use contractions. Like, why not? Why can't you?
You definitely can. You can learn. You understand them. You're a
robot.
arguably
the smartest humanoid in the universe. You can't use contractions.
I cannot use contractions. That's so weird. It's like I was saying, he turns my issue is that for 200 years, he's still doing it the whole time. Like 200 years, he's still having these like who's on first conversations where it's like a constant misunderstanding of like, and I'm just like, aren't we over this? Come on, bud.
Well, I have a theory about that, actually,
yes,
which is maybe it's just because it's so close in proximity to I just watched RoboCop again the other day. And
Robo wants an Oreo.
Robo wants an Oreo. And RoboCop in particular, it plays with this idea of robots having laws. It's very clearly the screenwriters of RoboCop were like, let's just do the Asimov.
Yeah.
But they had a hidden fourth law in RoboCop that was like, oh, you can't ever arrest members of the corporate machine or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe they had some hidden subroutines that were not in the 3 laws of robotics that were just like, you absolutely just can't understand basic human interactions. It just to make humans feel better.
I guess that makes sense.
You don't understand how to talk conversationally. You don't know what sex is, even though you know all the other information. We are not going to tell you what sex is.
Yeah, that was another thing I thought was interesting is like they seem to have intentionally made this robot not connected to the internet or Wi-Fi at all.
Yeah. You don't want that thing like
they would
spiraling.
be pushing. Apple would be pushing updates out to their robots and making them work slower until
the sex
bought the
update.
New one.
Don't install the sex update.
My thing was that I think it was interesting in terms of when he shows up. One, he gives that robot the law presentation, which is
don't ever do that
fucking
again.
Horrible. And I've never like when Sam was like never do that again. I was like absolutely never use that feature again.
The design, by the way, of how he projects holograms, the top of his head opens up like a viper's maw.
Yes, absolutely.
And beams shoot out.
It's not scary at all. It's totally fine.
It looks like the Tremors 2 Tremors.
Yeah.
Where they have that heat-seeking flap on the top of their head.
He's got a heat-seeking flap.
Yeah.
You think there'd be a more elegant way to put a projector in a robot?
Yeah. Maybe it's in his chest. Maybe literally anywhere else. Out of his eyes would be great. The interesting thing for me was that he does that and then it's out the gate is like, you can give me a personality or not. So like they all come preloaded with, and I couldn't tell because later on in Galatea has that, she's awful.
Yeah, I think it's called the aggressive annoying mode. Aggressively annoying mode.
But I was trying to figure out if like, do you think they all came with like preloaded like a dozen different personalities? Because he runs into that robot in Indiana that has like, hey, get off the diamond here.
It's definitely like a freemium model, right? Where it's like, you can get the base one, or you can get these cool Fortnite dances.
That's the other thing is like it not being connected to the Wi-Fi. It's like, I definitely would want my robot to talk like Darth Vader. Like, obviously.
I want it to be like one of the guys from Queer Eye. Get off the road now.
I like that. But I was trying to figure out. I was like, they must have come with like a selection of personalities, or did you just get a random one? Like, I just can't imagine picking.
I like
Galatea, especially.
I can't imagine they're all that or nothing.
Well, that's kind of what it felt like. Like if it's this early,
you're in personality mode,
which is annoying. They're like, you can either have no personality, which just means you're dry and you don't understand colloquialisms, or you can be the most annoying thing on the planet.
or maybe Oliver Platt specifically downloaded that one. Is like, this is great. Because throughout his
stimulus,
he always seemed like surprised that Robin Williams is
annoyed by it,
and wants to murder.
And actively maybe murdered her one time, like broke her one time in this movie.
It definitely the edit on that is definitely the screams of her death. and then it just cuts to like silly music.
There's a moment that, like, talking about how no one seems to like him and he's got no personality. It felt very early on when he arrived. When the daughter calls him up to her room.
Yeah.
And they're playing chess.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew gets up, turns around, and walks upstairs. Like, I'd be following. I'd be like, I don't know what this thing is yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what it can do. Like, it doesn't understand.
What would you be afraid that it does?
I don't know. It doesn't understand basic like ways of talking to people. Like, what if she's just like, you kill me or something, and then he's just like, okay.
Didn't you see he can't do that? Didn't you see the presentation, Joey?
It doesn't affect people or hurt people.
Yes. Unless plot points dictate, which you can get to that later.
Yes. Well, that was the other thing. He definitely. Maybe I'm wrong, and it stood out to me that, like, you know, did he when the girl asked him to jump out the window, is that breaking the third law where, like, you can't harm yourself? You can't harm yourself.
I think that the robot must have made the estimation that a 20-foot fall was reparable.
Okay, that might.
So he's a dumb robot.
I know. I think he just made the calculation of, like, she's ordering me to slightly damage myself for some reason.
Yeah,
but it will also give me a phobia that will last 2 centuries.
Yeah, he had a real issue with that.
And also, he's not been repaired, but he came in pretty fucked up from that 20-foot fall.
Yeah, he was not okay. That was definitely a moment where they were like, "Oh, we got to find something fun for Robin. We gotta love it. We gotta get him in here." I also the whole time could just be like, is he in there though? Is he in that suit? Was he in that suit?
You said he's in that suit.
Apparently he is. I looked it up.
Robin Williams insisted on being inside the robot suit for every single frame.
Amazing.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's like you pay for his physicality, right? Like that's the whole point.
But his physicality is that he has no physicality in this.
Right.
He's just like.
But then apparently the part of the marketing thing that made Robin Williams so mad is, like, they took all of those sort of like slightly out of place, like, humorous moments that clearly were kind of like pushed by the executives.
Yeah.
And that's how they made the whole trailer is like the music cue is like, wow, I feel good. And like,
and it's him with his eye
miracles.
Like spazzing out. Yeah. Like his eye like blinking and like.
Yeah, there is just enough humor spread throughout this movie
that you can condense a 1-minute sizzle reel to confuse people into thinking it's a Robin Williams robot comedy.
Fucking lootly.
I would also just like to point out this is a winner of the 1999 Stinkers Award for Worst Actor, shared with Jacob the Liar.
That seems unfair.
I would agree with that.
I also agree with that. This is not. It's not like amazing, but he's doing what I expected.
Yeah, there's no way this is one of the worst performances of that year. Zero. Like, this is like,
it's not even Robin Williams' worst performance.
No, by far the issues with this
Jacob
movie.
The Liar, though, which is also Robin Williams. See, so that one I don't know about.
I think both of those are people reacting to no, I want more Patch Adams. That's what they were reacting to.
I definitely think that the issues with this movie are not a Robin Williams problem.
No.
It's
he's doing what I expect of that part.
If anything, it just a lot of his acting was covered up for 2/3 of the movie because he was behind a plastic mask.
But when he got his first facial upgrade,
I
found that the most upsetting out of all of it.
Yeah.
Because when he had dimples, like they did the dimples
it's just
upgrade.
not quite enough.
But it's like, enough where he's just like, I'm like, stop making that fucking face.
but canonically, they even say that. Like he said, like Stephen Root, the youngest I think I've ever seen. Says, we didn't pursue that because the customers found it
people were freaked out about it.
And he said, give me that.
Yeah. Give it to me. And then he uses it to make get fuck me eyes from Little Miss at her wedding.
But that's
so distressing.
That's the reveal of it too, though. You pan up his like suit body, and he's sitting there with his stupid fucking dimples.
It does play a little bit like a horror reveal.
It really is, though.
Like if he turned around and revealed he was wearing the husband's face.
but just the mouth is visible, so you see the dimples. Like,
I can't tell. Why didn't they give him teeth at this point? Like, it would have been so distressing. So this is, because this is around the point, I have to talk about this because it was a moment where I was like, I'm going to turn the movie off. And it was the moment right before he gets his new weird face where he's making a clock and grown Little Miss comes to him in 2020-ish and is like, I'm getting married, but I'm in love with someone else. And she's definitely talking about
the pleasure bot,
Andrew, and whether, and like, he can love her. It just was like the whole time my whole body was clenched. And I was like, no, do not insinuate you have fallen in love or want to fuck this robot. Please do not.
Let me ask you this, though, Kyle.
Yeah.
Like if you had somebody in your childhood that your favorite toy is broken and they spent the next 48 hours carving a wooden thing and giving that to you.
Yeah, I definitely want to fuck it then.
And then you would just never forget them and just think about them on your wedding day.
I think if someone did that for me, I think I would be appreciative. I don't think I would want to fuck whatever soulless machine did that for me.
So we all know where Kyle falls on the do robots have humanity line.
I would say no.
The soulless machine.
Well, definitely at that time, no. I mean,
but
like,
he had
whatever.
dimples.
Yeah, he had creativity. Sure, whatever. All that shit. But like,
so if you had an artificial heart, Kyle, would you not be a human anymore?
No. I'm done. My soul goes away.
I am a cyborg.
I'm a cyborg. I'm cold and terrible now. Yeah, no, it just was that moment. It was like the back-to-back of like, oh no, please don't say you want to fuck this robot that has can't even register this conversation because it doesn't understand anything. And then literally at your wedding, like lock eyes with its weird new face for like 30 seconds? It felt like an eternity.
I just have a note on here that just says smiling Andrew is upsetting. Out of this many notes, that was one I felt strong enough that I needed to write down.
There's a part of me that wonders if this movie was made in a slightly different era or with a different budget or something, that they could have done slightly better, I don't know, special effects to make it look more interesting.
Yeah.
Because I wanted his like moving face to be more dramatic.
Like, I think that I definitely thought that would allow him to do more. Yeah, and now I feel like they just would have done.
All they did was just smooth over some of the creases.
Yeah. They made it all one piece.
Yeah.
Instead.
My question is, when you're designing a robot, how do you land on Robin Williams' design?
You mean like for that upgrade?
Yeah, no, just for the base model even. Like what is that like? If you're making a robot for people's homes, whose face would you? Well, like, are we also? And this is a bit wild. Does Robin Williams exist in this universe?
I wrote down. I was like, is this like a zombie situation?
Does Robin Williams not?
Does Robin Williams exist? Because you'd be like, man, that fucking looks like Robin Williams. Like, or is this like this is a universe where there isn't even zombie fiction and zombies start and everyone's like, what are these called?
I mean, I feel like it. What was that movie? Like Last Action Hero or something?
Yes,
where when they're in Last Action Hero universe, they try to go to a movie, like a VHS store, and
Stallone.
Terminator was Stallone.
Oh yeah.
So it is like a thing. Yeah, in that world, Schwarzenegger does not exist. This. I don't know. I just don't know how that's the face you land on.
I think the reason that's the face you land on is he sculpted it while not looking at it. He's just like looking at the robot, just being like smush, smush, smush.
Well,
it's Robin Williams' face.
Because you think Oliver, that's possible too. Oliver was like, oh, hey, kind of looks like Robin Williams.
That's then it's later on.
he has the skin ball, and he's like,
First of all, an amazing sculptor.
Yeah, it's like,
without
looking, just
looking.
lean into it.
Yeah, like just don't.
Lean into
like
the
Robin
imperfections.
Williams?
He's like, hey, straight up, I'm gonna make you look like Robin Williams, but also Robin Williams' face is a little fucked up, and I want to make that clear.
Yeah, he kind of really dwelled on beauty lies in its imperfections a little too long. I actually felt bad for Robin Williams.
Like part of looking like a person is looking fucked up a little bit. So this is a perfect person.
So this is great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make
just
you.
seems rude to just say to the actor.
Well, he's a robot. He doesn't have a soul or feelings, so
That's true. While we're sort of still lingering, I guess, in this opening scene, sort of. I do want to point out something that I caught and then didn't quite register until I was like looking into it, which is right at the beginning. There's a throwaway line when the robot shows up, and then somebody says, "Oh, Kate McAllister has one of those," and Kate McAllister is Kevin McAllister's mother in Home Alone.
Catherine O'Hara has a robot.
So it's in the same universe.
Both directed by Chris Columbus, 100% same universe.
This is awesome. Holy shit.
There is a hard turn that comes after Home Alone 2 where suddenly US robotics is on the scene.
So this is bullshit because they've done other Home Alone movies now.
That goes to show you they're not canon.
They
Only the first two.
This is it. Yeah, you're right, because these clearly exist outside of the timeline. Like, if they're making them now, there should be Robin Williams robots all over the place. The world should be lousy with them.
The third one is old Macaulay Culkin saving his house from a bunch of Robin Williams robots.
We could have had that.
We could have
had that, an Ultron situation, but with Robin Williams.
Yes.
He sets up a bunch of Hot Wheels cars for the Robin Williams robots to fall on.
I love that. That's so fucking weird.
But it gives you a sense, I guess, of like what this world looks like in 2005. It started from a place that was pretty close to our own.
Yeah. I mean, exactly.
Except that they have fully sentient, moving, talking robots. Like everything else is fairly normal, but then they're like, also there's these robots.
Yeah, it doesn't really, like when we jump ahead 15 years to in the beginning, right before he gets his facial upgrade, that's when they start to do like a little bit of like the future stuff. So like the wife has
tiny spinning ball thing on the kitchen table.
Yeah, that just
that
seems
had
to
no
be a
purpose.
sculpture of some
Yeah.
sort.
Oh, weird. I didn't even notice that.
Also, the cool bubble car that they drive around.
Bubble car is good.
Which, by the way, was also used in Demolition Man. Same bubble car.
Can
the
I
cop
say
car?
something?
Yes.
Awesome.
That looked so familiar to me.
So this is also in the Demolition Man.
Like,
This is exciting.
So just to reiterate, the timeline goes Home Alone, Home Alone 2,
yes.
Bicentennial Man, Demolition
Man. This
and then Bicentennial Man.
again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once the People's Uprising happens. That's why it jumped 20 years, because it was skipping over
skipped all that.
when
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone wakes up.
Wakes up. Yeah. God, that's good. Yeah, the bubble car, they have future motorcycle leather clothes, which were cool, I guess.
Yeah,
the
by the way,
boyfriend.
that fashion seemed to only be a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah, there wasn't like no one else had
That's
like
because that daughter's a piece of shit.
Right.
well,
But
yeah, that was
But
whatever.
it did look very similar to Back to the Future Part 2.
It was
Like,
very
same,
similar.
Same realm
Yeah.
It was
of
that.
vaguely carnival.
Well, that was the thing is like
Neo carnival.
it did look very Back to the Future too, and it was like when you see something like that, then you're like, oh, when we go inside, and I'm expecting everyone else's clothes to be slightly like normal clothes to be slightly different, but they did nothing. Everyone else just looked like they just were still in
even
1999.
Even when they put on like wedding tuxes, I was like, those are wedding tuxes you would see in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are wedding tuxes you would see in the 80s. Like that's those are wedding tuxes that like royalty wears to a wedding. Like that's not
And
what normal
clockmakers.
humans wear.
and rich clockmakers.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously. God, I forgot. It's just the clockmaking thing. This is when we make that jump to, that's when we establish that Andrew has been making the clocks and their home is filled with the terrible sound of like
every hour.
50 different clocks going off at the same time.
Yeah. That was a moment where I was like, why do they have all of them wound up and operational if they hate it so much?
You can't.
So the movie can happen.
And every hour on the hour, it's a nightmare. It's like Joey mentioned this earlier, but how loud Robin Williams is in this movie.
Just like every single tiny movement has a sound effect with it, even when he's got his Robin Williams face.
Do you think that he did the voice? Like he did it himself? He Foleyed it with his mouth?
No,
like that guy from Police Academy.
Yes, absolutely.
That would be it. Like he cooks food for them.
Yeah,
and then he's just standing in the corner blinking.
Yeah,
this fucking guy. That'll be it, Andrew. Okay, and then he goes in the kitchen. And
no, at first he says, "We're fine." Andrew says, "Yes, you are fine."
Right?
God damn it!
He doesn't understand
yes,
how to
you
talk
are
to humans.
fine.
Yes,
and then he walks into the kitchen, turns around, and just stares at him from the kitchen.
It's
I'm
literally what my dog does.
Like, we got to get rid of this thing.
It's 100% what my dog does.
It does feel like, though, once you got to clock 50, and it clearly was distressing everyone, they were like having to step around the clocks.
Yeah.
They could just say, Andrew,
Enough
I'm
clocks.
so glad that you're being creative. Could you cool it?
We have no room.
Yeah.
And my life is a hell that no one else understands.
They all go off. There's 3 a.m.
There's one other tiny future thing that I don't know. It really tickled me, even though it like barely is a thing.
Yeah.
It's when he goes to pay for to give Sam Neill all his earnings.
Yeah.
So that he can be quote unquote free. Because he gives him a little tiny check. I'm like, ooh,
no, he doesn't.
He gives him a check, but then
checks
like
are tiny.
I did not notice.
He hands him a little slip that's like this big. It looks almost like a
thought
longer business card.
I thought that was just because he had giant robot hands.
No, it's like tiny checks in the future.
Okay, tiny checks, and then also there's a throwaway line where the daughter is like, "Give me your credit disc."
Right, credit.
It's not a card anymore. It's a disc.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Their 2 big predictions in that close future was that money would change the way we do it.
Only kind of.
Checks would be smaller.
Yeah,
and
we still
credit
using
cards
checks.
would be circular.
Are they? Yeah, whatever. Credit disc, credit chip, whatever. I mean, like, it's not even cool. I mean, I guess they predicted.
I think they
a
just
chip
assumed,
and a card? I don't know.
They just assumed everything would be on CDs, I think.
Yeah, that's the...
Well, it does.
UMD.
The check thing is funny because it does follow a trend that we've seen in a lot of these movies, Aaron, which is that everyone was just like, things will get smaller. We will still have CDs, but they will be very tiny.
Right,
Yes.
It's miniaturization.
Yeah, so now... I guess they were like, we'll still have checks,
We'll
but we'll make them postal stamp size.
They'll look kind of plastic, and they'll be even harder to fill out because they're small.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just playing that out, I was just like, I love how small everything is. So convenient. I can put it in my wallet, and you get out the check, and then you just have to put on those like a jeweler's
glasses,
a jeweler's loop, and then pull out like tweezers with a pin. I just be like, all right, and
how much was that?
How much is that? Oh, 1,000.
Okay, give me a couple days.
Let me go.
And hold on.
Pay to the order of Kroger. How much is that? 78.
Sorry, we only accept credit discs, sir.
Ah, fuck. Okay, let me get this out.
We don't accept tiny checks.
Damn, they should though. I love Tiny Check. I did not notice
You
Tiny
should
Check.
rewind and
I'm
look
so
at Tiny
fucking
Check.
mad that I didn't see Tiny Check.
It's like barely a thing. And I think he also uses a tiny check to pay for his facial upgrade, his first facial upgrade.
I literally just assumed it was something they were doing like with the Lord of the Rings and the tiny chair. It was like, yeah, he's big and bulky.
No, man, it's the future.
It was like a weird thing where anytime they went back to that company, then all of a sudden out of nowhere, John Michael Higgins is in the movie as a lawyer just to like protect Andrew.
The snotty son. He was Bradley Whitford's son grown up.
That was?
I think so.
No,
the other way around.
No. John Michael Higgins was just the lawyer.
That's right. He was the family lawyer.
Yeah,
and then Bradley Whitford
was a lawyer later.
Yes.
New
lawyer.
Yeah.
He was the grandson of Sam Neill Lloyd. But like it was just funny that he would just kind of show up and be like legally like trying to just help this robot not be torn apart for parts.
But like
and like
any other, I feel like if this were real,
free.
like if this were real,
yeah,
and a robot starts talking about like wanting to be free.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to get rid of it quick.
You got
because that's like a virus that'll spread.
Well, that's what U.S. robotics. Sorry, I call it U.S. robotics because that's what it's actually called in the novels.
Yes.
And apparently, in 1976, a company was founded called U.S. Robotics in tribute to Asimov. And then when they saw this movie, they said, "Please don't use our name."
Fuckers. Of course they did.
So Northam Robotics was like, "This is a defect. We need to decommission this thing."
But it is like it's super dangerous.
Well,
but are humans perhaps defective, or are they perhaps more beautiful?
But it's illegal to kill them.
imperfections?
It's not illegal to kill the robot yet.
I mean,
do it while you can.
It is like clearly Sam Neill has a weird arc in that
Very
he's
quick
like,
arc.
well, like the arc is
kind of whiplashes
exactly
back and forth.
yes, exactly, where it's sort of like initially, yeah, the company's like, well, we got to get rid of this thing because that's a murder waiting to happen. And every single thing Robin Williams has done up to that point definitely points to a murder at some point in the future. It is not in any way endearing to me. But
the more
so
human
then
he becomes, the
that's
more
when
willing he is
yeah.
to
So
break
then
the
Sam
laws.
Neill is like, I will give him human classes where I teach him about sex and make him into like, I don't know. That conversation is like Andrew's in the corner of the bedroom recording or something, or like being forced to join in, or I don't know.
There was a weird edit on that scene where it like the whole scene is like he's devastated to learn that sperm die if they don't impregnate.
Right.
And then at the very end of the scene, he just goes, "They die." And then it slap dissolves to the next scene.
And then that must... That's good filmmaking.
Yeah.
That's when it gets in his head. That's where he's like, I'd like to die one day.
That was, I think that's what they were going for. It's part of being alive.
They're allowed to die.
But Sam Neill's arc is he gives him all. He's like, hey, we should let him be creatively free. We should let him be unique. It's not a flaw. Let me teach him about fucking and like jokes and things like that. And then as soon as Andrew's like, I would like to buy my freedom, he's like, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here.
If you want your freedom, then accept the consequences.
Yeah.
Take your tiny check. I don't want your tiny check.
I couldn't tell. Your money is no good here, robot. I couldn't tell if he was pissed because, like,
I think his feelings were hurt.
I guess, but he definitely encouraged this all the way up until the end. I mean, I guess that doesn't mean you're not going to have an illogical response to, like, I mean, I assume it was sort of like his kids left.
Yeah.
And through, listen, his own fault, he basically made a robot his best friend.
Yeah, I think
and that's your fault.
Come
That's
to
your
think
problem.
of it, they did kind of lay the track for that, on the wedding night when he was like, "Let's just watch that video out of your weird skull projector."
Out of your brain projector, maybe, Kyle? Your brain projector?
Okay, but that's not. This is no. We're not talking
brain
about that.
projector!
We're not fucking talking about that. This is not Back to the Future.
But he said, like, basically he implies that I think his wife died and all his kids are gone.
She didn't though. She was there when he died, and she was like still dated Andrew.
I actually just assumed that was like his older daughters.
No,
No, that
she
was
just
his
still
wife.
fucking hates him for no reason.
Anyway, in that conversation, she's clearly estranged from her. Like she's not in the picture. And he says, "They've all left me." And then Andrew says, "I will never leave you, sir."
Yeah.
And then
Until I want to.
And then
I have
he's
enough
like, "Hey,
money."
what if I just had the option?" And he's like, "Get out!
Get out of here!" And then on his deathbed, he's like, "Ah, I
feel
shouldn't have
bad.
thrown you out." It's like,
Yeah, the
guess.
passage of time. I think I know obviously the robo smiles are disturbing. I thought the passage of time in this was the most scary element of all. Where they use the collapsing of time that all movies are capable of between scenes, where you're just like, how long is it between those scenes?
Yes.
Like a few weeks, and then literally to have Andrew do one of those weird loud blinks. And then the next thing you know, he just goes to visit Little Miss, and she's an old woman.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What?"
I think
how
that's
are
the
you
most
old?
successful part about this.
Yeah.
Like, I think it...
oh, that one?
No. Just like those jumps.
Yeah.
It's like, man, fucking people like die. Like,
Yeah, because like a lot of
old.
biopics suffer from that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, we're just doing like the greatest hits of this guy's life or whatever. But in this one, it's like that's the whole point, is that his life is unnaturally stretched out. and it's a tragedy he's trying to end.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do think that's probably the most effective jump in the movie is like when he's on his Forrest Gump epic to find all the other robots, and he doesn't realize. Like
it's been 20 years or
10 or 20 years. It had to have been 20 years, but he just like his concept of time is so different that it felt like a blip. And he's like, oh yeah, everyone gets old.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Well, and that was when he came back as Robin Williams. He just walked into the house, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sees Little Miss 2.
Yes.
And he's like, it's Little Miss.
But then he gets really angry.
Yeah. You're not her.
Get out of here.
That's when the murder starts.
He hates her. He hates her so much.
And that's before he got the neural implants that allowed him to actually feel things. It was a purely cold psychological logic of
calculated hate.
Logic tells me you must not exist.
I must snuff you out.
And they
damn these laws of robotics.
I really like that actress. She's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, she's great.
She's really good.
I didn't realize she's the lady in Army of Darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. She's also from Lafayette, Indiana.
Oh.
A fellow Hoosier. So
yeah,
that's
she's
very exciting.
She's really good, but I did like the way that they kind of like bringing it around to her looking like her, but then like using the actress again. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, it's great. I have no problem with that. For like, a
I
movie
will
like
say
this.
though that I've noticed that this movie has a very weird idea of what genetics are and how they work.
Well, they skip a generation.
Yeah, that's exactly. She straight up is like, you know how it is when you just make a perfect clone.
Sometimes clones just skip a generation.
Yeah.
And then there's a few other lines that every time it came up I was like, that's not how that works. There was at one point Lloyd when he's like, mad that Andrew doesn't like him, or he's mad that Lloyd isn't like his mother.
Yeah,
and he's just like, and Lloyd turns to his mother and it's like, I'm not like you, Mom. That's called mutation. And I'm like, no, it's not. You're not a mutant.
But does that say mutation exists in this?
Like, did they like intentionally
just outside the bubble city, which we never see, is where the wastelands are.
They don't say that that's not how it is.
Yeah. Like for all we know, like this guy lives in a mansion because like everybody lives in a mansion because the rest of the population's all dead.
Well, they cut out
the sticky finger bandits were cast to the waste.
Yeah.
Well, they basically cut out the parts of Andrew's journey where he's trudging through a Fallout like future between cities.
But like
I would watch that movie
it would be
so
amazing.
hard. Just a wastelander robot trying to find his way to humanity.
Like Bicentennial Man 2 is just like a post-apocalypse desert Mad Max movie, but in the background you see him just like walking across
on his deathbed.
sand.
Oliver Platt's like, I have something to share with you, Andrew. The forbidden upgrades. And a wall opens up and there's just like chainsaw hands,
missiles in his chest.
And he's just like, this will do.
I love it.
There was one more weird genetic reference where Portia goes, I can't invest my emotions in a machine. And then Andrew again says, that must be a genetic trait. I'm like, no, that's not
what it was.
That's not true. That's just a decision.
Portia's
Also,
Little Miss 2, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, clearly, her grandma wanted to fuck this robot so bad. Like,
must be a genetic trait.
It must be a genetic trait. Well, it must be passed down.
Yeah.
The love would be passed down, not the.
But they both hated each other immediately.
But I feel like Andrew started it. He
100%.
started by just saying, I don't, and then he just started proclaiming, I know we don't like each other. And Portia's like,
she was like, I met you one time.
I guess not.
I met you one
you
time.
Piece of shit.
Also, I know when the movie should have ended. The movie should have ended when he goes to her house and he's like, we hate each other, right? And she's like, I literally don't know you. And then she's like, you don't have friends. And they sit on the couch and he has a new friend. End of movie. That could have been it.
But what about the blood?
Woofy's head opens up and projects a movie with their little dog.
But that was like, I was like, that could have been there.
You agree with Roger Ebert, who gave this movie 2 out of 4 stars, and he said that the first 2/3 was promising, but then it became sort of a mawkish rom-com.
Yes.
I personally didn't mind that. I think it gives it a bit of a direction that beyond him being hunted like in iRobot or something.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a nice, more sort of meditative sort of exploration of what it means to be human.
I thought that, but then I felt like the last like 4 or 5 scenes were all time jumps of like multiple years.
Right.
And then it felt like they're like, fuck, we gotta like...
It started to feel a little bit like AI, where they're like, and then 5,000 years passed.
Oh, I haven't even seen it.
Oh, sorry.
So, yeah.
Sorry, Joey. Spoilers. 5,000 years passes.
But like, he goes to the... What do they call it? The council,
I think it's the UN.
But they had a different name for it.
It's called the World Legislature.
And World's Congress.
Okay, so maybe
in the movie
it's
they
not...
called the Congress. In the books, it's called the World Legislature. I did look around, and it appears that this is like the only time that this is ever really referenced, or at least featured prominently in Asimov's work.
Yeah.
If you don't know, a considerable part of Asimov's books are all in the same universe.
Yeah.
Like the timeline goes kind of like, iRobot. This sort of Andrew's time, and then apparently, have you seen the movie iRobot?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was loosely based on Caves of Steel, which is takes place further in the future.
Yeah.
The reason that world exists, which has like a mother brain that controls all the drones and stuff, is apparently because U.S. robotics was so freaked out by Andrew, they said, "That's it, nobody gets independent brains anymore. They're all hooked up to a central brain."
But that seems worse, because then you have one thing that can control an army.
As seen in Caves of Steel / iRobot.
Yeah. No, it's a bad idea, but I understand why they would be like, no, not this again.
Right,
not one of these guys again.
But canonically, the events of this movie cause that to happen.
Amazing.
And then that in turn causes the robots to build robots to build spaceships, which allow Foundation to happen.
Yeah. Fucking
it's
wild.
all connected.
Joey just had an aneurysm. This is a good question, though, because I was trying to figure this out. I thought... I guess it did say it was a legislative body. I was trying to figure out if there was like a world government here, but then it was like, clearly there were placards for individual countries. I don't know.
It was played really vaguely. And the first time they introduced it in this movie in particular, I had to do a double take, because the scene, if you remember, starts with, "So you'd like for us to pass a law that would proclaim you to be human. This court finds," and I was like, "Wait, is it a legislative body or is it a court? What is this?"
Yeah, it's all of it.
Is it just one body, just like everybody in the world gets a vote to both pass laws and condemn people?
Well, it's the Judge Dredd of...
It was very
bodies of government.
Judge Dreddy / Starship Troopers kind of, but I was like, are we one world government? But then I saw the individual placards for each country, and I was like, probably not. Or
World
maybe
Congress.
we have like world laws that are governing.
It sounds like that the best I could tell is they took Congress and the judicial system, mushed them into one, and all important legal matters that their version of the Supreme Court is also their world law body.
Yeah.
So they both create the laws and enforce them. It's
that
very
is
strange.
Judge Dredd.
Yes.
That's Judge Dredd.
Or maybe they don't enforce them. They just create the laws and then determine how they're applied.
It definitely felt like they were doing, it was Supreme Court in terms of, they're just doing cases that set precedents for future matters.
But they also have the ability to create laws, apparently.
Yes! What is going on?
But then the chief from Carmen Sandiego shows up. And I'm like, oh, it's the chief.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Okay, Gumshoes.
The warrant.
The warrant!
Okay, Gumshoes, if you want to be human, you need to inject blood into your system.
Right in there!
Then it's fine, because you look gross.
Then we'll take about maybe 20 years to determine if we're going to make you a human or not.
When you come back and look gross and old, then we'll pass it. It will be cool. This is the other thing about the compression of time near the end, because just in the back third of this movie, Andrew casually invents artificial organs and changes the entire world,
which is in the stories too. Again, in I, Robot, Will Smith, if you remember, has like an artificial stomach, and everybody's just like, "Oh my god, is he a robot?" It's like he's an android.
Yeah.
He's a cyborg.
But he changes the entire world, and then it's like Portia's living well beyond her years because obviously she's getting the parts he invented,
and like, they just casually toss in, "I'm not taking any more of your DNA elixirs, Andrew."
Yes, DNA elixirs. I was like, what the fuck is that?
He's become a new god. He's just
it also seems weird that the butler robot is the one he was the first time they decided to apply these positronic brains towards anything that might resemble medical advancements.
Yeah. But it's all in service of himself.
Right. Just like,
well, definitely. Yeah. He's definitely, his selfish drive is what is forcing him to, changing the world.
They did try to have their cake and eat it too, where they like both he didn't like that humans around him died, but also he's like, but also I want to be human. Yeah. And Oliver Platt kind of points that out. He's like, yeah, that's the point. That was always the point. I'm not selfish, audience.
Yeah. I always wanted to die.
This wasn't just for me. It was
for Little Miss.
It was for Little Miss.
It was so I could pork and then die.
Okay, we have to talk about this. So he gets he's mostly human. He's mostly Robin Williams. And then he has a drink with Oliver Platt. And Oliver Platt is like, I think I figure out a way to give you a nervous. Is this before the nervous system? Is this when he pitches the nervous system?
That was the weird thing, is like I think he had a central nervous system.
At that point, he has it, right?
But then, so then he was feeling things. But then he did not yet have, or at least he had the schematics for it. But he's like, also, do you want to taste things? Like almost like testing the water.
Yeah. And he's like, whoa, wow, yeah, I'd love to taste a beer.
He's like, well, if you want to taste things, you could also, have, be complete down there if you want.
I really like the idea of like a scene that we didn't see of Oliver Platt like hunched over, like drawing schematics of Robin Williams' dick. He was being like, yes,
sculpting it without looking at it,
and it's like skin balling it. Just the head of it looks exactly like Robin Williams' face.
Not again.
He's like sculpting this penis. He's like, now the thing about penises is imperfection. Okay,
is beauty.
So he goes like gives it like a right angle, like.
But also, I was curious because he does eventually start eating stuff. Is that basically just making like food bars?
You think he processes it so cleanly?
He doesn't process it. It just smushes it into like an ejectable
Oh, you
log.
think he's like compacting it?
Yeah.
I think given that they have humans that have like artificial digestive systems and stuff, like it probably does actually create food that like create energy for him.
Okay. I was just expecting you could eat his
I mean, that would be
because there was never any point when he was like full humanoid Robin Williams where he still casually opened up his chest cavity and plugged into an outlet.
Yeah.
And his eyes blinked like in that strobe effect.
I fucking loved that.
The loudest charging.
So annoying.
Perfectly fits with his whole thing of being loud at all times.
Can you imagine if you didn't have like a basement, like if you're in California and
it'd be awful.
That had to be like right next to the guest bedroom.
Yes.
And you just see the kid like stuffing a towel under so this little light stuff.
In his final form, we briefly touched on this. He has what I would say is the best 8 to 12 hours that a human could possibly ever have.
Yeah.
He has sex for the first time. He farts for the first time, and then he eats a full meal for the first time in like the span of 8 hours. And that is
after having never done it.
Awesome.
That timeline is pretty intense.
It's a very intense timeline.
It also implies that like he had the procedures done to have all this stuff put in,
and then immediately,
but then either like fresh off the operating table, went or he waited a couple days and just like, why do I feel so weak?
Starving.
But just like post-coital bedroom.
Yeah.
I'm just going to rip ass.
Well, you didn't know. He clearly didn't know. But it must have felt awesome. It must have felt so good. Yeah. All three of those things are like three of the best things you can do on the planet Earth. And he experienced them all for the first time. Well, that's awesome.
I guess it's time for the blood now. I'm good.
I guess it's time to die.
Time to die. I got
Time
all
to
the
fucking
taken
die.
care of.
Oh, I finally did it.
I finally did it. I hit the trifecta.
I know what it means to be human.
I finally did it.
He was like, that was great. Well, nothing else.
All right, time to go shit a perfect cube.
Time to go shit your breakfast.
Just
Here's
rockets.
your compacted stuff.
Unprocessed bacon just into a cube.
Yeah,
Shot
that's what I
into the
like.
toilet.
It's the most heavy, dense, compacted energy bar. Like, here's 20 breakfast plates compressed into a bite.
I mean, you're not wrong. He may have made them more efficient to where, like,
That's
Well, what would
A
his
food
waste
pellet comes out.
be? Like
It'd probably be poop.
But I know, but I mean, like, but what is the way? You know what I mean? Like,
I just expected it to go into a giant stainless steel basin.
Yeah.
And then that was just like,
and then it's like a
squeegee
Play-Doh.
down.
It's like a
Yeah.
Play-Doh.
like,
Yeah.
like one of those like mechanical press videos.
Yes. After he's just like, I've eaten enough, and then the press comes down and
Yeah.
fills the lower colon.
Like, I've seen it. I know what it looks like when he eats Skittles. I've seen that video.
I also know what it would look like if he ate a Slinky.
Which he probably does. That was before he got the taste buds eating
No,
Slinkies.
that's the thing that they don't address is that he clearly could be like a matter eating lad where he could just chomp on anything.
Yeah.
and it'd
I
be
need
fine.
energy. Just chomps whatever's next to
Just
him.
eats a wooden fence.
Like,
Like,
I mean, they made a point for him to say, "I don't eat," like 5 times until that
that
upgrade.
moment.
You
Yeah.
go to his house, his oceanfront house, and there's just these little cubes everywhere.
If
You
this,
don't know
if
why.
this movie was made today, they would get to that point, and then
Yeah.
an executive would be like, you know what? We've already spent so much money on this movie. Instead of just trying to make a 3-hour movie that nobody's going to see,
Yeah.
what if we just made a part 1 and part 2?
Oh God.
And then part 2, you can
Yeah.
have all the shots of him like eating granola bars and the banister off of the stairs.
Yeah. God, yeah,
That would
this
be
should,
so
This
funny.
should be 2-parter.
Well,
It should
just
be.
so we can watch him eat non-food.
Yeah.
Well, he's got to have like, what do they? You
and
think they
dump
gave
out a-
him bone teeth?
and
That's
then
insane.
Dump
They're
out
probably
a building
stainless steel.
material.
Right? They're stainless steel teeth. They have to be. Maybe they have
It's
like
a grill.
Yeah.
It also heats up to about 145 degrees as a literal grill as well.
So he can
So we can get through metal.
Yeah, so he can just go through metal. God,
Yeah, my mouth also functions as an arc welder, sir.
I
And
love
now
that.
he's a pleasure bot as well.
I mean, that's my other thing is like if you're making your robot a penis, like it's got to be interchangeable. Like there
Oh,
has
yeah.
to be different settings.
Which one do you
there
want?
Has to be like
It was the 90s. Isn't that when that song came out?
detachable penis. Yeah, no, that's right. That was on people's minds.
I don't know this song.
You've never heard this song?
Detachable penis. You never heard that song?
I don't know.
That's the
It's not
most
ringing a
showy
bell.
song I've ever
I was
heard.
gonna say I can't
'Cause it
believe
says
you ever
penis
heard
in it?
that. No, it's about a detachable penis. That's it's
It's the
how
combo.
it's used.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's not just that it's about a penis.
Who's it
It's-
by?
I don't know.
Is it like
I think
a mainstream
I think they were
song?
like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, that
Oh.
was it. Yeah, it's like their only song.
I don't know that song.
Well, we'll fucking listen
I learned
to
it.
man.
I learned something.
It's
today.
interesting, but I just thought I was like, he must have like Oliver Platt can't help himself. He must have been like, here's a splorch. Here's like here's
Here's
one,
a suitcase you should show nobody.
Here's one based on the Shai Hulud from Dune.
Yeah. Well, now he's just going to Spencer's.
Yeah. Well, I know. Ugh,
Can we talk about Galatea for a second?
we
Yes.
have to.
Okay.
They
so,
gave her boobs.
So that's the question that's a little ambiguous. Because I
Yeah.
remember when I watched this as a teenager, I thought that Oliver Platt had altered an NDR robot to
Yes.
be a lady.
Yes.
That could be.
So-
but rewatching it, they never specify that.
But
No.
I had that exact question where I was like, did they always did they make a female model of the initial design? But that doesn't make sense.
and did they come with the Jenny Slate personality?
Money, please. Like, I don't know, but that was like the weird thing where I was like, did they have? I mean, I guess it would make sense to
In terms
I
of
guess-
customization, I would think that they would, just like how you can buy like a white iPhone or a red iPhone.
You could have a
lady butler or maid.
I guess it's whatever you would be more comfortable with in your home. I could understand people being more. My only thing is like once you start making the female android thing, there's no way it doesn't become a sex thing for people. Like, which is definitely insinuated.
But I would imagine, given how terrified the Northam robotics was of any deviation from the norm, you'd probably have to go to a third party. Like, shop.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Which was basically what Oliver Platt is running. He's running like an illegal, or not an illegal, but like a chop shop for these things.
You want me to jailbreak your robot?
Yeah, pretty much. Which is what he did to her.
It voids your warranty, but I can replace the screen if you want.
She's got it. She might be the only one, though. Because he's Andrew is like completely like he has never seen one before.
And they made a point to show the montage of him seeking out all the other dead NDR robots, and they were all identical.
I bet Did one of them die in a plane crash? Was that
like
one of them?
I
found one
like
frozen.
It seemed like one was found inside a capsule in the North Pole.
Yeah, that was part. It was part of the wasteland.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
It was being sent after the sticky fingered bandits.
This is they
had escaped
outside the
right before
city
that
zone.
He hand-to-hand
the quarantine zone.
Before that, he hand-to-hand fought an ice lizard.
Yeah,
like something like that to get to that. But yeah, she may be the only one. Like, it must have been it does feel like maybe it's just lonely Oliver Platt, like, just had all these parts and made
there was
a
definitely
lady
a few lines from Oliver Platt's character where he projected as if he were an incel. Like,
absolutely.
He's just like, I just make all these body parts.
I just have all these penises.
I just love these parts. I just love growing parts.
My father taught me how to make these parts.
There's also a moment to going back to how dangerous Andrew is.
Yeah.
Where he like basically almost starts a robot uprising with the lady robot.
Oh yeah.
When she's like, I'm tired of being your
as a joke.
Yeah, it just like happens. You're like, wow, this didn't take a lot to like.
Was it a joke that he was doing it?
I think
or
he
was
did it out of like pettiness.
It was definitely something. It was partially that he hated her personality. I think he was like literally like, why did you do this to her? Why did you give her the worst personality chip humanly possible? So he took it and instilled a separatist ideal within her. Like the
beginnings of the robot wars.
Yeah.
Like right there.
Which that's another thing that we did, because by the time he gets to Oliver Platt, these robots, like we're done with robots.
It kind of seemed that way.
Like society does not, or at least they're androids now, or like what? But like, as far as you never see another kind of robot. It felt like
it was a little weird because obviously in the greater, it's very strange for a number of reasons. First of all, most Asimov fans seem to agree that this is arguably the most faithful Isaac Asimov adaptation.
Weird.
And yet it takes that weird deviation where obviously they got in a note. It was like, can we just say that people are done with robots?
Yeah.
Andrew's unique. They're trying to keep it focused, but in doing so, it makes it feel like that humanity had this weird anti-mechanical backlash.
Like there was an uprising. Like there was like more Andrews in a weird way. Like it makes him in a way of like trying to make him seem more unique. You're like, well, clearly this happened all over.
Yeah.
And we were like, we're done with this. Yeah. Or we got tired of them taking our gerbs or like whatever. But like, it is weird because obviously there's a great version of this where we love robots and there are brand new versions and it's him trying to like keep up and be relevant and which kind of forces, I don't know why, but I kind of like the insinuation that something real bad happened while he was on his little journey, and we were like, "Fuck these guys."
I like that way more. Yeah,
we gotta nerf them real hard.
Well, it's because I think his whole thing is about upgrading. I feel like if robots stayed in the public conscience, or like they kept making new versions, there would already be versions that are just getting put out that already do a lot of the things he doesn't have.
Yeah.
And you'd think so. Then it kind of makes his journey of improvement null.
And that's kind of what happens in the novel universe. Is they eventually become more refined to the point where they do exactly what they're the perfect sort of filling in the gaps of what humans do until something goes wrong with the mother brain that controls them.
Which we could have never anticipated.
Yeah,
We couldn't have guessed
I
that.
can't imagine giving control of all these metal humans or metal machines to one brain would be a problem.
It's never happened in sci-fi. It never happened. Well, once again, this is obviously a world where science fiction doesn't exist.
Yeah,
so
where
there's
Terminator 2
there's
didn't
no
happen.
cautionary
There's
tales
no Terminator
whatsoever.
2. There's no Robin Williams. This is the worst timeline.
Granted, I will say that we are hurtling towards AI anyway, and we've had so many of these
Yeah.
cautionary tales,
That's
so
true.
it clearly doesn't matter.
So, in terms of like the, I guess the progression of technology, though, we don't see that many glimpses outside it. There's like a few wide shots where you see
like the
okay, the
skylines.
future city.
the cars hover a little higher now.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
more stuff in the air.
My favorite one is right around the middle. There's a wide shot of what looked like maybe it was Seattle or something.
Yeah.
And you see cars flying,
Mhm.
and then you see what is very clear like a small cruise ship that is, for all intents and purposes, just a cruise ship, but is
Yeah.
hovering for no reason 10 feet above the water,
I missed that.
and moving at the exact same speed as a cruise ship.
It's
Yeah.
what the fuck? Like
Floating
That's
above
so
it.
annoying.
I didn't see that part. I know the shot you're talking
It's a
about.
blink and you miss it.
annoying.
I was like, wait, what?
What's the purpose
Why?
of that?
We kind of nailed boats, guys. We did it
For a long
we're
time.
pretty good at it.
I guess they don't like rust.
I guess, man.
But then
I
you
don't
could
know.
cruise across like the plains. You don't have to go on the ocean.
Okay,
You can
yeah,
have stuff
well,
to see.
Then we're just talking about hovercraft at that point.
We're talking about airships.
airships. Finally,
Yeah.
that's actually honestly all I want out of a future like this. I just want like an airship.
You want a ship that you
situation.
can go back to as your base, where
Yeah.
you level up.
Yes,
And
where I
you
can
go
talk
out-
to all my friends
and
and,
I can
increase my relationships.
I could go out and harvest minerals as needed.
Absolutely, for all my upgrades. There's a weapons bench.
There's the penis improvements bench, and where I eat my compacted food bars.
When they were talking about all those that I produced myself,
That I
I mean, I played Death Stranding. I absolutely that's a game where you turn your shit into grenades. Absolutely.
Use all the parts of the buffalo.
when talking about all these upgrades, though, I kept thinking back to there's this notorious story about like the early days of Universal Studios when they were trying to get all the rides to work.
Yeah.
And there's at one point a robot T-Rex that pushes through a waterfall
course,
as you're
yeah.
going down a slide.
Yeah.
And apparently on like the second test run ever with the crowd, something went wrong with hydraulics, and a
Mhm.
bunch of hydraulic oil, like piping hot hydraulic oil, shoots out of the T-Rex and
It's a Dilophosaurus T-Rex.
and gave all of the people on the ride like second degree burns.
Oh my
Excellent.
God.
Good.
And I'm just like, that seems like a hazard to give that to a robot that's just immediately going to go and use that on another person.
Yeah.
Sounds awful. Man, that's so sad. Can you imagine just trying to have a nice day? You just want to see the Jurassic Park ride.
It's a jump scare for a different reason.
Yeah.
But think of how much money they made.
I guess I'm just like, there's got to be that one person that's like permanently scarred from it, and like their one eye is just like weird and like burnt, and they're like, "What happened to you?" And you're like,
Dinosaur attack.
"Fucking dinosaurs,
Yeah.
fucking robot dinosaur."
65 million years in the making.
I'm looking through the only other weird future like technology thing I have written down is that their fireplace was stupid.
I don't remember their fireplace.
It's like two pyramids, one on the bottom and one on the top, like reversed.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a little cone that that shoots up into an inversed cone.
So all the smoke immediately just
I guess. It's like a big metal thing that was in the center of their house.
Like near the end, like when Sam Neill kicks him out, like they're clearly supposed to have like a future kitchen, but if you
That's
I
where the
couldn't
little
tell
spinny
you,
ball statue was.
But I couldn't tell you what's futuristic. Like
it was more clean.
That's it. I can't tell if there's actually anything futuristic about that kitchen or if it just has a futuristic aesthetic
And
to
it was bigger.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing is like so much of this movie kind of takes place in this haze of like it's the near future, and
Yeah.
then it's not until the end that it almost feels like a Planet of the Apes. It's like, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
it started in 2005 and it ended 200 years later to the day.
Cool. Great. I also thought that they were in a suicide booth, but I don't think they were. They were just on life support at the end, I guess.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because clearly there were two sort of poles next to them that were emanating something that was keeping them alive.
Straight up on life support.
Biofield.
Yeah.
And then Galatea, who is the robot who now has a human face.
Yes.
I didn't
You didn't
put
notice that?
together, no.
Yeah.
She says, "Thank you, Galatea." And then it
didn't
pushes
even
it.
notice.
Then it pushes in on her. It's like, "Do you get it, Joey?"
I didn't get it. They should have pushed in further.
They should have said her name way louder.
Yeah.
She should have slapped her butt and then,
said-
and then should have gone ba-da-ba.
Yeah.
as she takes her off life support.
Dances away.
What you want?
Yeah. For the trailer.
Unplugging. But it does bring up a really interesting point about these robots and the 3 laws of robotics, which are obviously much celebrated in Isaac Asimov's lore. And he has tons of stories about the limitations and what happens if you tweak one to be one more important than the other. But this whole ending just kind of like they make such a literal fanfare at the beginning, like, these are the laws.
Yeah. Yes.
And then the whole ending just completely just like, you know what?
I think that's another futuristic, like, that's where we are now. There are no rules of robots.
What if it was all psychological? Like, it was not actually programmed into them. They were just told that if they tried, something bad would happen. So it's like religion.
It's you're told like it's poisonous outside. Don't go outside, and then you go outside and it's not poisonous. You're like, I can do it.
No,
right?
Island
So like the 3rd law of robotics is a robot may never do anything to allow harm to come to themselves, as long as it doesn't interfere with the first 2 laws. Yeah. And that's exactly what he does when he puts blood into his veins.
Yes. I don't know if the interesting thing about the 3 laws being so prominent in this is like, yes, it feels like that he's definitely breaking them a couple times, especially in his self-interest.
I figured out what the 4th law is.
What is it?
It's you may not do anything that breaks the first 3 laws unless it progresses the story.
That's true.
That's the secret programming.
Yeah.
That's the RoboCop twist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
will this be a dramatic moment?
But like
proceed.
But like when Galatea, it's so weird because it's like Galatea says, or like Portia says, "Can you kill me, please?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Galatea like hesitates for a second. She goes, "That's an order," as if that
It's still.
But that doesn't make any sense.
But that's still like the laws that she
breaks
can't
number 1.
Because number 1 is
human,
like you will obey, or number 2 or something. Number 1 is like you'll obey everything a human commands and protect their life unless it endangers them.
Yeah.
And she said, "Kill me," which is an exact thing that a robot can't do.
It's number 1. I wrote them down. We should have said number 1 is a robot may not injure a human being or through an action allow a human being to come to harm. The 2nd law is a robot must obey the orders given by a human being, except where such orders would conflict with the 1st law. And then the 3rd one is a robot, which is broken all the time. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the 1st or the 2nd law.
Right. So that's just, they don't, I read some justification online. I think it was on the IMDb trivia page.
Sure.
Where somebody clearly with, a Bicentennial Man super fan.
Yeah.
Was
Yes.
just like, one could
They're out there.
argue
Excellent.
that
Always a good way to start a sentence.
but this is under trivia, as if it was just sort of like one could argue that
argue.
Galatea, by allowing her her natural lifespan to end, prevented future suffering. And I'm like, that seems like a slippery slope.
Yeah, well, in that case, we just kind of start mowing down people because they will
were gonna
suffer
suffer.
sadness at some point.
Humans live miserable lives.
Yeah. My issue with the 3 law of robotics is obviously a lot of Asimov stories are about how, like you were saying, Aaron, like a slight tweak to them or how they don't really work because there's always some other outsider issue that someone didn't anticipate and that doesn't quite work. But definitely these laws are so pervasive in science fiction that definitely real scientists are using them to design like AI right now. Like for sure.
And I think some of them are just not even bothering.
I guess more worrisome is that there are some that aren't even trying to use any guidelines.
Some of them are like, what if we put this gun on this drone?
Whoa, cool.
Oh, no. Whoa.
I rigged up this handgun.
It's so cool. We made a dog that'll hunt you.
Can we make the gun? Dog. Can we make the gun look like Robin Williams?
It was literally like they were just like one of those fucking Boston Robotics dogs, but with Robin Williams' head on it, sprinting towards you. I would love that.
While reciting the
it gives him really hairy arms. Its arms
while reciting the monologue from Dead Poets Society.
Oh my god!
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
I mean, if Judgment Day was filled with Robin Williams, I feel like it would be a little more pleasant.
If T-1000 was Robin Williams,
yeah, you're like,
if he morphed into Robin Williams, even if his fingers started to turn into like a knife finger, I'd be like, can you do a little bit?
Is someone gonna pull it?
Make it look like you're going down on the lady, but putting your face in your armpit.
Can you like do the Carol Channing voice? I like that one.
As the finger is getting longer towards your face.
Come on,
hello, darling.
Yonk. I love it. Well, guys, I think we talked enough
take
about
the
our
tiny
robots
checks.
Here? Okay, stop. Let me ask the question. You sure it's not brain projectors?
The brain
asshole?
projector!
Fuck you. Anyway.
I'd install brain projectors in every man, woman, and child.
I hate you so much.
Just like they did in Back to the Future.
What
which is
would
part of
you
this
take
movie.
From this future of 2005, 2020, 2048, 2060? What do you guys want? What are you taking? You taking anything from this future?
I would take an NDR robot. I want an NDR robot just to be hanging out in my house. I would just order him to be in the other room, and then
I'm charging.
It's 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's why you have a garage, guys. Nobody thought to put him in the garage.
Yeah, super loud. You guys, I'm charging down. I'm charging down here.
Charging!
But then, like, whenever I wanted, I could go out and be like, Andrew, you want to go on like a hike or something? And be like, I would love that very much, little miss.
Call me little miss.
Call me little miss. The day I come home and it's just sitting on the couch, sadly listening to like Jagged Little Pill or something, I'd be like, no.
I
We
would
gotta
be
take
like,
a bat to this thing.
I would be like, that's a good album, bro. And
you got great taste.
Thank you, little miss.
You seem like you have a real melancholy and an infinite sadness inside of you. I have an album for you to listen to.
You'd really seem like you'd like a chocolate starfish in the as he listens on an old Victrola player.
You know,
you playing Roland for him on a Victrola.
This is
on a wax.
This is one of those days where I feel like I want to break stuff. That was my Robin Williams.
I gotta break some shit.
I don't give a fuck. As a matter of fact,
I
cut my arm bleeding.
This does feel like what would I bring? I probably would bring. I probably would have a robot as well, even though I've come out against it. I would like to. I would.
It just variety is the spice of life.
Just to try it, and like you said, worst case scenario, if I don't like it, I invite it on a hike and I kick it off the fucking cliff.
Andrew, carry me to the bathroom.
Make me
now leave.
Why?
Hold out your hand so I can pee in them.
Why, sir?
Andrew, open up.
Andrew, open your mouth.
It's like gets all your sadomasochistic impulses out on this thing that's just
I guess that is the one sad thing is maybe it would bring out something where I'm just like treating this thing so horribly.
But it seems like he has reactions that would make me pause. It's not like
I'm okay. So when I say I want one of these, I am very specifically saying I do not want an Andrew. I want a normal one that does not have a soul.
Oh, okay.
I do not want it to have a soul. I want that in the agreement.
So when you're buying the robot, there's 3 checkboxes.
Yes.
No soul.
You could have the no personality ship, or soul. Human soul trapped in mechanical shell.
Absolutely. And that's got to be part of it. They must have when they were building it, they were like, listen, I don't want to I'm not saying we put a lot of souls in them, but someone's like, if we kind of like murder someone here, do a little bit of witchcraft, I think we can trap us all inside this thing.
Well, speaking of human souls, I was surprised when I was like, I think I read the short story, but not the novel.
Yeah.
The novel ends with Andrew dying on his deathbed.
Yes.
And then he like blinks very loudly. And then suddenly, at the foot of his bed is little Miss as a little girl beckoning him to heaven. And then he proceeds to go where other humans go because the Congress has said he is human.
Oh, because legally he's human now.
And now,
so
now his soul literally, because that's how religion works.
God would be like, absolutely.
Can we just rewind real quick and talk about the end of it? We're at 200 fucking years.
Yeah.
And he finally gets the thing he wants.
Yeah.
And they kill him before he hears the answer.
Well, I don't think they kill him. I think he just didn't make it.
No, exactly. But like in the story, they fucking like don't let their
No, but it was beautiful because she was like he didn't need it.
Was it beautiful or was it wholly unsatisfying?
But I will say that he did need to hear it because he tried so hard twice.
Yeah.
He went before the world legislature.
I mean,
twice. He clearly cared.
There is the argument that brain death actually takes the better part of a half hour, even after all.
So you think he still heard it?
So he probably heard it, but just was trapped in his own body.
But being a robot, he could just be like, heard it.
The one of the, I think about
his thumb that fell off goes, and then he goes, and falls out.
Aaron, I'm really glad you described brain death like that because that's actually one of my biggest fears that I think about all the time.
You'll be in locked-in syndrome as your veins feel like they're on fire from oxygen deprivation because your lungs don't work anymore. Anyway,
cool. You'll feel it all.
But yeah, like
cool.
the ending of this movie is like, he didn't need to hear it.
Yeah, he didn't need it. But anyway,
he did though.
He didn't need to hear
this
it.
movie
Also,
even
kill
about,
me.
They're like, what's this movie about robots anyway?
I want to go to sleep with my giant human-shaped dildo. I never want to wake up.
Wish he would have gone to heaven so badly at the end of this movie.
I would have been like, it. You know, it feels like something where if you were just a little bit stoned while watching this, you'd be like, yes, and stand up and just like
robots in heaven, heaven robot uprising.
I would love that. I think that would be the funniest. Like already, this is so like an uneven movie tonally, and like it's like 3 different films. Absolutely, he should go to heaven at the end.
It would also
fucking lootly
create robot religions.
Yes.
The robot devils then would have like
then you're going into Futurama.
Yeah, it'd be like robots that died but like were brought back to life because they were repaired or whatever. Like I saw
Born Again.
I saw Born Again. We use Andrew's personality chip in a new body. God. And then he can be born again.
Man.
Robot religion.
This movie's weird. What would you bring back, Joey?
Tiny checks.
So two butler robots. I want the one with the soul. Kyle wants without.
Please.
You want tiny checks.
I want tiny checks. I want brain projectors.
Right, this makes sense. Would you guys live in this future?
It seemed all right. It seemed chill.
I mean, it seems like
aside from the apocalyptic wasteland.
Besides the apocalyptic wasteland and the robot uprising.
Just stay out of the quarantine zone.
Yeah, and you're fine.
Seems like the super city, the mega cities are perfectly fine.
Where Harry lives from Home Alone.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay, as far as all these future movies, it seems pretty chill.
Yeah, this is probably the chillest future that we've encountered on this show so far. One of the chillest.
But you know, we don't get into the fact that then humanity is now in a decline because everyone's marrying a robot.
Oh, and overpopulation because everyone lives forever.
Well, they'll eventually die because you're marrying a robot and you can't reproduce until they can.
And we have that pesky blood in us.
I mean, that's the trade-off. It's like everybody becomes immortal, but no other humans are born. So then you just have a bunch of shambling half robo elderly people that rule the planet.
And then
for eons,
the robots do an upgrade where they can incubate a human baby. And then the first human baby is born via robot.
Oh my God.
I mean, they already have that technology now.
Yeah, test tube type thing. Yeah. But like,
no, they have like artificial wombs now that they did it with a sheep. It's true.
Pretty sweet.
We're in the future?
It's now. 2005 was 20 years ago, Joey.
Yeah.
Where's your NTR?
I don't want to be
alive anymore.
I don't want to be around anymore.
I don't want. It's too
I don't
fucking,
even want to be around anymore.
It's too fucking hot here.
Okay, well, I think we did a great job. I think this was a good episode and a fun movie to talk about. It is so profoundly weird. I enjoyed myself.
I still really enjoy it. Christopher Columbus did a masterclass. I think that he was ahead of his time and was done dirty.
I mean, I think he's a great director. He is a good director. I think by all accounts, a very lovely man.
Right.
As far as I've heard.
I will say I don't think it deserves whatever, like the 23% of Rotten Tomatoes or whatever that it has.
Or
no,
what was that? The Stinkers, 1999.
Definitely not the Stinker. Definitely does
not even a golden raspberry, a Stinker award.
Stinker. Yeah. Couldn't even get a Razzie. Fuck, man. That's tough. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything that you want to tell people about?
Well, I mean, speaking of robots with souls, I wrote a DC comic with Red Tornado as he kind of like navigates a very difficult Valentine's Day. It's out in comic books now, so check it out. It's called It's a story in an anthology called How to Lose a Guy Gardner in 10 Days.
Yeah, that's a fun story. It looks really good. That turned out really sick.
And be sure to check out, I guess, Star Trek Prodigy on Netflix.
Yeah, that's up there both seasons now, or one season.
The first season, second season is coming to Netflix later this year.
Awesome. That's great. I'm so happy I found a home. That's a really fun show. But y'all, thank you so much for joining us again. You can find us on all of our socials at Yes Tom Today. We're on the TikTok and the Instagram and the Twitter /X
and
Blue Sky. I guess I said it. I still haven't made it yet. We will be on there. And then you can go to our Patreon as well.
Patreon.com/LOLJK podcast.
And yeah, thank you so much, y'all. Once again, that's been an episode. I was one of your hosts, Comic Bay.
I'm Joey Reinish.
And thanks so much. Bye.
Everything he does is the loudest.
Okay, we got it. Let me intro the show so we can talk about how fucking loud this movie is.
I can't even tell he's in the room with us.
Okay. All right.